Well, hello everyone. Looks like it's about 2 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Of course, I want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to sit in and listen on us. My name's Courtney Matlick, and I work in sales and business development here for Stahl's CAD-CUT Basically, I have designed this webinar for those of you that maybe you're currently doing embroidery, you're looking to expand a little less expensive alternatives, or just kind of see how you can keep all your jobs in your shop. There may be some of you here that don't have embroidery equipment at all, but maybe you still want to be able to compete with this decorating method, and we'll have some tips for you guys as well during this webinar. I'm going to start today by going over why heat-applied films, like our CAD-CUT materials, have a place in the embroidery market, and the basic markets where exactly this will fit, where embroidery has fit in the past. Then I'll go into some designs and heat-applied films that we've just recently launched within the last 6 months, for those of you that may not have seen them, that actually are perfect for reaching the market where embroidery has in the past in an inexpensive way and can save you money. So let's go ahead and just get started into our webinar presentation. Embroidery is basically usually used as one of the most popular decorating methods today. Very typically, it's been used in the past for corporate wear, children's wear, and embroidery is basically used in these two markets because, as all of you know, it's used for higher end, it's more premium, it's just looked at more of a premium, a professional looking garment. And there's still some places where it may become that is the right thing, but we're seeing a change in the market where things are becoming too expensive, or people want to try to do things for cheaper, or maybe it's just basically impossible for the garment that your customer has brought in to be embroidered. Maybe it's a large design, a lightweight t-shirt, the two just aren't going to mix. So as apparel decorators, you're forced to come up with somewhat of a solution so that you don't have to lose that business. There's quite a few advantages to actually using heat transfers over embroidery. For one, it's a great solution for lightweight garments. I'm sure many of you, typically only embroider large designs on a sweatshirt. That might be the most lightweight that the fabric that you go. It also is a good solution for lightweight garments because it just doesn't have the same pull and the same kind of push that the threads will, and it won't distort and wrinkle those light garments. So you'll still be able to do t-shirts. Limiting yourself to sweatshirts or polo shirts, obviously, you could lose a chunk of the business doing it that way. Also, heat transfers are less expensive to do for a large design, such as maybe a back of a jacket or the front or back of a shirt. Even simple one-color designs for a back of a jacket can get quite costly for your customer, and it can charge you a lot of labor time as well. Heat-applied film options are great when you're trying to conform to your customer's budget, basically because there's different choices of materials and prices that kind of go along with that. So you'll see here in the webinar we'll have a fashion film material that is more inexpensive, and you're able to get your customer's message and their design on their shirts for the price they want. There's also the more premium heat-applied film materials like CAD-CUT flock we'll see, and a Pebble puff material that are a little more premium, so you're not going to be able to meet in the middle pretty much from embroidery to heat transfer for your customers. Now, I'm sure many of you are actually thinking, okay, I'm still going to stick with embroidery though because it gives me the most beautiful product. I don't want to lose that higher perceived value. And this might be true to some occasions. It might be a fit for some of your customers because maybe they are willing to pay an endless amount for that large back design, even if it's embroidered on their jacket. They just want that type of design. But for those that are a bit more price conscious, like we're seeing so much in today's market, you have the heat-applied films that can kind of mimic the look inexpensively. Lastly, it's less time and investment per design to use heat-transferred materials versus embroidery. I'm sure those of you that have embroidery machines know that it's no contest that embroidery machines are more expensive than a heat press and the equipment that is used for heat printing. It also takes more time per design whenever you're doing embroidery versus heat transfer materials. For example, it can only take maybe a few minutes to prepare a heat transfer design and then press it on. you're looking 30 seconds max usually for heat applied materials or any type of transfers underneath the heat press. Some of them go as low as 4 minutes, 6 minutes, or 6 seconds, so you're looking less time. While for a large embroidery design like the back of jacket, depending on the amount of colors, the thread breaks, and everything that goes in between with embroidery, could easily take an hour to sew that garment. So as I briefly touched on in the beginning, there are two basic markets we're going to focus on for this webinar where embroidery is most commonly used. Corporate and children wear is basically one of the main markets that we see this in. In corporate wear, we typically see designs are embroidered on those left chest logos or those big back prints like I had mentioned on polo shirts or woven tops. You also see some caps and laptop bags or jackets decorated as well with embroidery. Usually, though, you're sticking to the 4x4 designs or the large back prints for this market. We have, though, in the apparel decorating industry seen a shift from embroidery to heat transfers, even in the corporate wear market, because companies are really looking for inexpensive ways to kind of still be able to brand their company and have their nice garments, but cut back on the cost of that as well as they're saving money. In children's wear, we typically see embroidery on babies' blankets and shirts, onesies, bibs, things that you would give children for their first birthdays, first Christmases, basically because of the personalization that you get from this market. So let's go ahead and take a look at just some of the new heat-applied film materials that can reach. We'll do corporate market first, and then we'll break into the children's market as well. I always like to break into the design quickly so that you guys can see the most design here on the webinar. So we'll go into those full back prints, the expensive designs. This one we have done here with a Pebble puff is actually about a 13 by 8 design. We'll take a look at this design as a one color. If you were going to stitch this, you'd probably have a little over 11,000 stitches into this design. So the cost for this design would cost you embroidery about $7.15. Now I've created my cost structure as if it would cost you 65 cents per 1,000 stitches for your designs. Now I have not taken things like digitizing the design into account because, as you know, this is typically a separate charge that you pass on to your customers as well. So for both the embroidery and the heat transfer costs that we'll be going over in this webinar, I'm simply factoring in your labor, your overhead, and your material cost as well to create this design. So now for the embroidery design, it's also going to take you about 14 minutes to complete this once your garment is actually on the machine. This is assuming that your embroidery machine embroiders at about 800 stitches per minute. So I'm factoring in that average. If you would embroider at 600 stitches per minute, then obviously it could take you as long as maybe 19 minutes, 20 minutes to create this design. Again, if you would do 1,000 stitches, then it would be a little longer than that as well. Again, this is only the time that's on the embroidery machine. So if you add in a few minutes to hoop your garment and prepare it for the embroidery process, you could easily spend over 20 minutes per shirt to create this design. Now to heat apply this design, it can be much more cost and labor effective. We'll start by using our CAD-CUT Pebble Puff heat applied film material, which is a perfect material because it has this unique raised text effect to it. And I know some of you can't really see in the photo. We're going to hear in a video here in a moment that'll show you a little more zoomed in view of the Pebble Puff. But it gives you the illusion almost of the threads and the loops that you get with embroidery with this heat applied film. So we'll go ahead and get into this video so you guys can get an idea of what it's going to look like. So here I'm just cutting my material on my cutter. I'm going to go ahead and pause it and give you guys a minute maybe to catch up. But for those of you that may not be familiar with a vinyl cutter, we're cutting this on a Roland GX24 cutter plotter. We have our material loaded in underneath the cutting strips and the pinch rollers. and we're just going to quickly show you a quick cut of the design, and then we'll get into the weeding and preparing it for heat application. So now I am going to weed my design. Actually, it doesn't raise until it's heat applied, so you don't have any issues cutting it or weeding it with it being thicker. Quick preheat of our garment. Of course, about 5 seconds would be good for a polished shirt of this. I believe I might be breaking up a little bit, so maybe I'll give a second to catch up. Hopefully you can hear me a little better. But basically, we'll press this for 5 seconds, and then the carrier pretty much peels off. It's pretty hot. Flatten down to get a puffed up effect. I'm going to decrease my pressure a little bit. You saw me on the top of my fusion press. So you kind of get an idea here of how the stitches, how it would look. Kind of compared to embroidery, it almost looks as if this design has been stitched. Get a quick zoom in here. Has a raised up kind of puffed effect. And that again is just as durable as embroidery would be. You're looking at a life of a garment even with this special pebble puff material. So that it was very quick and easy for us to be able to complete this back print. You saw it took us about 25 seconds underneath the heat press to create this design. Overall, it took us about 8 minutes, and I'm really kind of stretching it. Look about a minute to heat apply, give it 2 minutes to cut the design, 2 minutes to weed it. I'm really kind of giving you some time to even fold up the shirt there. So from start to finish, 100%, it would take you about 8 minutes to finish this CAD-CUT design. So comparatively speaking, you're looking at a cost of $4.84. So almost half of what it's costing you to create this design with embroidery, and about half the time as well whenever you're factoring in everything it takes to complete this design. Our next is obviously the left chest logo, something that I'm sure each of you are very familiar with when it comes to creating designs. Here I've started with a 100% cotton ladies t-shirt or a button-up shirt. And embroidering left chest logos is easy because they're small, usually typically 4x4 design, and they're usually inexpensive unless there's a lot of stitches involved or maybe there's a lot of colors. However, heat pressing this logos is even quicker and even easier and even more inexpensive if that's even possible, especially for those designs that only consist of 1 or 2 colors like I have here. So here I have a quick video. I'll just show you really quickly how we were able to kind of create this design and heat press it without the buttons getting in the way on a garment like this that some of you that might be familiar with heat pressing would be worried about. So we'll just, again, cut our design here, and then we'll weed it and prepare it for heat application. Now for this, I'm using our CAD-CUT fashion film material, both the regular CAD-CUT fashion film and our fashion film electric as well. Just weed away some of the excess, and you can see how fashion film is very nice for this because it cuts very thin details, so you're able to get that small names, and the small name of the company is easily to be weeded. To heat press this, I'm going to be placing a pillow into the shirt to where you can see the buttons will fall off from where the pillow is, and it'll rise up only the area that's going to be heat printed. Quick preheat. It's good for me to preheat completely snapping down to make sure that my pressure is on point, basically because the pillow is going to cause a little extra pressure underneath the heat press as well. I'm doing this as a two-step process because the two materials are going to almost overlap on the design. But you could easily do a two-color design that did not overlap in just one quick step, as long as the application instructions were the same. So the first fashion film was for 330 degrees at 20 seconds and a warm peel. And now fashion film electric will be 15 seconds at the same temperature and a hot peel. Change my time really quickly here to the 15 seconds. Again, I'll be able to peel this hot. So you can see how quick I was easily able to create this left chest design. But it almost looks like it's embedded. I paused here for a second for each of you to see. It almost looks like it's embedded into the garment, and it just gives it a nice finish onto the shirt. It doesn't look like a heavy name and number like many people might think about heat-applied vinyls onto the garment. So just a nice look with the fashion film. It's very thin. Now to create a design like this in embroidery, you're looking at a two-color design, be about $2.46. Now, since the sun is a metallic, metallic threads could be a little more expensive, so you would have to increase your cost if you were going to choose to create this logo with the metallic thread as well. But this design would have about 3,700 stitches, 4,000 stitches in this design. It'll take you about 6 minutes to complete it on the left chest once you have everything in place on your embroidery machine. Now again, I'm not factoring in things like if your thread breaks, which is likely to happen during an embroidery design. I am, however, factoring in the thread change for the separate colors. So that's been included in your cost and your time to create this design. Now to create this with heat-applied materials, like the fashion film that we've showed you, it would only cost you about 65 cents to create it. That's including your labor, your overhead, and your 5 cents in material, which is practically nothing in material. You're basically just paying for labor to create this design. Now, from start to finish, it took you only 4 minutes. So you can see with these smaller designs, what you're really kind of getting out of it is the low cost. I mean, you're really able with heat-applied materials to give your customers something on a budget. You know, this is still a great look compared to embroidery that they can be able to do for a lesser price. Let's take a look at some of the accessory items that are available with heat transfers as well, as so many people believe that you know, heat transfers are jerseys and t-shirts and that's where they stick and they belong, but they're much more versatile than that. So to heat press caps, you can easily do that with a cap press. Stalls offers cap presses from $600 to $700 roughly. There's different size platens, so you're really able to kind of cover a wide range of hats and caps with this heat press. There's a lot more things you can do with the cap press as well. I know many of our customers that have had their cap presses for a long time will swear by them, and you know they're able to do their left chest logos with them and everything as well. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking to kind of expand your shop. Now, if you're going to embroider a design like the cap we have here, cost you just under $2 for this, let's see, a 3x3 design. And it'd be just about under 5 minutes once you have your hat placed on the embroidery machine, which can sometimes be a task when placing your cap on the embroidery machine. Since it's a two-color, you might want to add a minute into your time to make it up to about 6 minutes, just to kind of give you a little more of a gauge of what it would take you to do a two-color design in embroidery versus the heat-applied material. Cost-wise, then again, we are a third of the price to do this with heat-applied material. You're looking at about 68 cents between the fashion film materials that are on this hat. And again, you're not compromising durability every time you use these heat-applied films because they're still tested for at least 50 washes or what is considered to be the life of the garment. Decorating bags is also possible with heat-applied materials. And here we have a messenger bag. We'll have a video to show you in a minute to give you a better idea of some of the complications you might get with a bag such as this when embroidering or even heat pressing it without the right tools. This is a polyester bag. We're going to use our CAD-CUT Thermo-FILM on it. Let's just show you that quick video, and then we'll get into the cost of the embroidery versus the heat applied material. Now to heat press this design, I'm going to use a pillow and place it inside of my pouch. You can see hanging off of my heat press are the buckles, the zippers hanging off as well, and there's some Velcro that's going to be pushed in. So I'm going to make sure with this pillow that I have even pressure. All of the buckles, zippers, and all those good things are kind of off, so they're not going to be melted under the press. Now Thermo-FILM, I'll pause here really quickly, applies at 320 degrees, 6 seconds, and it's a hot pill. So you can see it literally took me 15 seconds max once I had the bag onto the heat press to create this design. So it's very quick, very labor effective to create something like this with Thermo-FILM. Heat applied materials would take you about 4 minutes, which is less than half what it would take you to embroider this. Not to mention it might be difficult to get a bag of this size and nature onto your embroidery machine, so it might waste a couple minutes there as well. So you're looking about 9.5 minutes to complete this design with embroidery. When we look at cost, we're comparing almost $5 to a little over $1. So to create this with heat applied material, it's about a fifth of the cost of what it costs you to do it with embroidery, which is great. You're able to sell these at a premium still as well because, again, they're durable, they look good, and the color's vibrant on these as well. Now that we've kind of looked over some of the garments in corporate wear, let's talk a little bit more about children's wear and kind of where that market is going. Since heat transfers are also perfect for personalization, just like embroidery, they're able to meet the needs of this market, which is typically a kid's name or a birth date or something like that similar onto the garment. So we'll look into those beautiful baby blankets. This is a typical baby gift that everybody buys, and everybody has one when they're born. Usually the child's name is obviously on the baby blanket. Sometimes the apparel decorators will add the date of the birth or maybe the size of the baby when he was born. So this is just give you an idea of another market you can reach with heat applied film materials. Now we started with a 100% cotton blanket, so we were able to easily heat apply to this with no problems. I've also added the name, just the baby's name. Again, if I wanted to add the date, I could do so as well. And I'm using CAD-CUT flock for this design. Now, flock is a great material for those of you that may have not seen it before because it's soft and kind of has a suede-like finish. So when you're putting it on a child's blanket, it's not rugged, it's not going to hurt the child, it still has a nice soft finish to it. It's also thinner. It's our new CAD-CUT flock, so traditional flock materials, for those of you that are familiar with them, are a little bit of a thicker design, and this is much, much thinner, especially for this blanket, which is pretty thin as well. Now, to keep heat-applied materials like this in mind for other garments other than just this blanket, flock works really great with sweatshirts where twill is typically used, just without the stitch. So when you're looking for an inexpensive way to kind of create a twill design and maybe you don't have the embroidery equipment at all, or maybe you're just trying to look away from having to do the sew disc and everything, then flock's a great option for that also. Now to embroider this, I'll give you a quick idea of what it would cost, and it would cost you about $3.34. Again, I'm factoring in your labor and your overhead and your material costs once the garment is put onto the embroidery machine. Digitizing costs would obviously be separate. It would take you a little over 6 minutes to complete this design. It's a little bit smaller. You're looking at about a 9x3 design for the baby's name. Obviously, if you went a little bit smaller or a little bit larger onto the blanket, the cost would change, and so would the time. Now, for heat-applied materials, as I'm going to show you, it's quite easy to heat apply to this type of blanket, especially for our heat press, which we were using a 16x20 Fusion. Here we'll cut the flock material. You can see how, even on the cutter, you can almost see that it has a suede-like feel to the material. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with cutting flock, you might want to change to a 60-degree blade for this type of material because it's a little bit thicker than some of the other materials like fashion film that we've been cutting. But a 60-degree blade will work perfect for this. Quickly weed. You can see how easy our new CAD-CUT material really weeds off of there. I'm able to kind of get everything up quickly without really much of a struggle. Very little breaking. It's a nice material. Now I've laid my baby blanket out onto my press, ready to heat apply. I kind of put some of the excess on my table below so that it's not falling off, so I'm able to heat apply it. I'll place my design in a diagonal direction. Then I'm going to heat press for 320 degrees for 15 seconds. Now flock is a cold peel, so we're going to use a heat eraser to kind of cool it down. If you were going to do a large number of these blankets, you could obviously simply throw them aside and peel them later, because it doesn't matter how long you wait as long as it's cold enough. That's it, and we have a finished baby blanket. And you can see, again, it took me maybe 30 seconds to complete this design once it was on the heat press. Now the cost of this material from start to finish with your labor and overhead would run you about $1.40, which is half of what it's costing you to create this baby blanket and embroidery. The time is about the same, but I'm again factoring in the entire process for heat applied material. You still save a minute. So if you're doing 25, 50 of these, you're saving almost an hour's time with 50 of these blankets. Personalizing knit hats for babies is also quite easy with a heat press, surprisingly. Again, this is typically personalized with a child's name. I chose to use our CAD-CUT fashion film material for this because the design was small. It's about a 1x3 design. And this CAD-CUT material, again, cuts those fine details. We have a quick video here. I'll show you just how we were able to heat press this using, which you can see is a Teflon pillow. Started by loading my knit cap with the pillow pressed inside of it. The reason I chose to use this Teflon pillow is because the cap that I was decorating had a seam on the back. Just wanted to make sure that the seam wasn't going to get in the way when I was heat pressing. Do a quick preheat. And then again, the fashion film applies 320 degrees for 20 seconds. It's also a warm peel, so you only have to wait, maybe about 7-10 seconds to peel this off. So just a few seconds at a time. And again, I'm able to complete this knit cap, which is beautiful for a baby boy. And I'm able to do this in as little as 30 seconds once I get it on the heat press. Took me probably under a minute to cut this design, under a minute to weed it. It's really a significant time break. You're looking at a max of 4 minutes to cut, weed, and heat apply this design. Using the maximum length that would take you to definitely complete this. Now, cost-wise, since the time you can see is about the same, you're looking around 4 minutes for both embroidery and heat applied material. Where you're really getting the benefit with these knit hats is that you're able to personalize them for a much lower cost. And the hats, while they are beautiful, they are made of cotton, so they're able to kind of hold up the heat applied material quite nicely, as well as the thinness of the material doesn't make it, again, that thick vinyl that people typically, associate with CAD-CUT materials. Just before we go, I want to lastly show you some more of the, possibilities with things like digital heat transfers whenever you are decorating children's apparel and other types of apparel. Now, as you can imagine, to create a design like this on a child's bib, for one, it would be quite costly for what the bib is going to actually bring benefit to the family when the child's eating and, getting their mess all over it. So you it'd also be quite difficult to create this 3-color design as well. So embroidery would obviously be out of the question for a design like this. However, if your customer would bring it to you, you definitely don't want to turn those choices away. And there's 2 different ways you can basically do this. For starters, you could do a digital transfer yourself. All you would need is a print cut system like a Roland VersaCAM, CAD Color, print cut media. We've used our CAD Color Crystal Clear for this, and you would need a heat press. Once you've created your digital transfer, it would only cost you about $1.10, and then it would take you about 6 minutes from start to finish, from the print and cut system to the weeding to the heat application. You'd be completely finished with this design, ready to box it up and send out to Madeline's mom and dad. Now, if you don't have a print cut system, as some of you may not have that capability just yet, maybe you haven't expanded your business into that, then the CAD prints digital transfers offered by Stalls would obviously be another way to quickly and easily do this. Now, this design you could order in a digital transfer from Stalls, and it would cost you about $3 to get this design shipped to you, and then about a minute to heat apply it. The Crystal Clear applies 320 degrees for 15 seconds, so it'd be very quick to get this type of thing done. Now, this specific Crystal Clear material is used for white and light garments specifically. It also has a good matte, soft finish, so you can see that would be the main reasoning on using a CAD color material like this on a child's bib. There's also some digital print medias that are available for dark garments as well, so it doesn't limit you to only these, as some other transfers may, or like sublimated printing might limit you. So this kind of just gives you some more endless possibilities and ways to think about how you can personalize for birthdays and Christmases and Halloween and all the holidays that parents are looking forward to purchasing these type of items and putting the child's name on it. So that's going to conclude today's webinar for us. I want to thank you all for joining us, obviously. I hope you were obviously able to get a better understanding of how heat transfers can fit into your shop. As a special thank you for attending, we're going to be giving out 1-yard cuts of our Pebble Puff heat applied material that you saw here on the polo shirt to 5 lucky people. So you might want to check out your follow-up email from Great Garment Graphics for a link where you can enter to win the material. We also have a few webinars coming up. The next webinar is Thursday, May 5th, with full color and heat printing with Spectro EcoPrint. And the next CAD-CUT webinar we have is actually going to be on heat printing for weddings. So we're going to look more into garments for bridesmaids and brides and all the occasions that kind of surround the beautiful wedding occasion as we enter into wedding season. So Nicole, do we have any questions?
Courtney.
It looks like we are good on questions. Well, thank you again, guys, for all of your time today. I'll go ahead and send you guys back to your shops and get everything ready for that. So happy decorating, guys, and good luck.